I had the best plan for the birth of my first child. I had it all sorted out. I was doing hypnobirthing classes. I had a clinic in Melbourne, Australia called Pregnancy Care Australia. So I was speaking to people about natural births, and for me, there was no other option at all in my life. So I was massively rigid in this is the only way I'm going to bring my child into this world. And everything opposite happened for me. We were at 40 weeks, 41 weeks, 42 and a half weeks, and I was doing everything to even hide, the due date because we were pushing. Jackson was not coming out. Naturally, I spent 12 hours at 9 centimeters until they said to me, we need to do an emergency caesarean. He's not coming. You can't keep pushing. So not only did I have an emergency caesarean, on his way out, there was a rupture of one of my arteries, which created a huge amount of bleeding where they needed to put me under and call in the oncology department to work out, how to find this little arteries. And this is one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my life, because before that, as a practitioner, as a healing practitioner, I was fighting for everything naturally. And I was also fighting for this is the one way and it's only that way. What I've learned is, it's not about my mind's choice about one way. Of course, I would have loved to have a natural birth, and I really value, the medical world in how they help support me and my son. And also I look at that as a massive turning point where I became a different practitioner and I became a different teacher. So rather than really fighting for one way, my philosophy has massively changed, and my philosophy is more what's happening right now. Let's have a look at the body right now for that individual person, because there's such an incredible wisdom in the body, and no two bodies are alike and no two circumstances. So rather than coming in there as a practitioner to say, we're only doing it this way, I won't do that at all anymore, and I won't teach that. What I teach and what I look at is what's happening for you right now. Let's have a look at your body and also your philosophy and what's important for you. So that time in the hospital for me really has shaped who I am now as a practitioner and as a teacher. And so with that, I've learned that it's not about having one system. It's about what stops us helping other people is rigidity or fixed beliefs. So knowing if, people that are walking around, they're saying it's this way, it's one way, or like me, I'm only having my birth this way. That's what's keeping us stuck. And what's going to set us free is actually having a look at the body and healing in a completely different way and asking a different question. What's this body saying to me right now? And if the body is speaking to us, what's the wisdom that it's trying to say? I know the body is super smart. The body has a wisdom. It speaks to us all the time. A lot of people think, oh, my body's broken. It's speaking to me. It's screaming at me with pain or stress or disease. I'd like to challenge that and say, the body's not broken at all. The body is so wise. The body is so clever. And your body's talking to you. It's trying to tell you something. It's trying to say, hey, I'm not okay. Or check the gateways out. There's a blockage here, or all this stress in my world is getting stored. So the time right now is to listen and to understand my rigidity, and, if we can all learn from that, because I was stuck in my mind with one way, as opposed to really trusting the body and the wisdom that we all have inside us. Knowing that our bodies speak to us all the time and there's a wisdom inside our body, we need to really start to understand the map of the body and the 7 gateways. I remember when one of my students came to one of my trainings and, they'd been working with clients for 12 years and they were such an incredible massage therapist, and they came to me just saying, I'm getting frustrated. I'm rubbing the same muscle and, this person just feels better after the session, but they're coming back with the same problem. And I remember introducing her to the concept of the 7 gateways, but not just the concept of the 7 gateways, but finding out what the body's saying or where the body is storing stress, because sometimes where the body stores stress as blockages is not the same place of where the body cries out in pain. And you might know yourself, you might have some clients that come in and you're working on the pain, or you're working on what they tell you, or they're saying, hey, rub here, this is sore. And you might do it and maybe it feels better for a little bit of time, but if we're not getting to the cause and we're not getting to where that blockage is stored in one of the 7 gateways, effectively helping the symptom as opposed to helping the cause, which means we're not going to help them long term. So it's super important to be having a look, I call this the map, the 7 gateways, the structure, the foundation, to find out where is the cause, where is the blockage, where is it getting stored? Because with this lady that came, she messaged me after seeing her clients and everything dropped for her because she was here, she was rubbing this muscle and she was working on this muscle. But what she found out was higher up, there was a blockage in the spine, and there was a blockage in what I call the foundation gateway, which is where the sacrum and the ilium is. And what happens is when there's a blockage there, that interferes with the nerves, the nervous system. And when there's an interference with the nervous system, what happens is it tells the muscles to go into contraction and it holds the muscles together. So if the nervous system's telling the body to hold the muscles together, that's a really smart, clever response. And if we come in and start massaging or relieving the muscles, but we're not actually changing where the nervous system is contracted, firing off messages saying to contract, it's kind of like we're going in circles. And her breakthrough moment was when she learnt that the reason this muscle was contracted was because there was a blockage in the foundation gateway, the area of the pelvis, the sacroiliac joint. And when she learnt and understood the tools of the spinal flow technique to start to release that, the muscle no longer had to be contracted, and her client started to come back without the same pattern. And that's where she spoke to me and she's like, you know what, I get it now. There's a framework, and if we follow the framework of the body as opposed to following the symptoms, we can start to change and really help people long term, which was enormous for her. When I had my clinic in Melbourne, Australia, and I used to work with athletes. I used to work with gymnasts that were going to the Olympics. I worked with a football team, and I loved working with these athletes, but I didn't like working with the coaches at all. And I do remember one coach saying to me, okay, that's enough, Carli, I need to get the sign off. This guy, I need him back on the field. And I was like, there's no way I can sign this guy off. He might have a little bit less pain or be out of pain, but the structure and function of his spine, it's not okay. If he goes out now and he starts to play on the field, that's going to cause massive damage to his body. We're just at the beginning of getting his body back. And, this coach has said to me, look, that's not how we do things, Carli. You need to sign him off. I need to get him back on. And I knew at that stage, if I signed him off and he went back, his body wouldn't repair. There'd be so much damage to a body because there was already so many blockages and compensations going on in the body. That was one of the last times I worked with coaches of teams where they needed people, on the field no matter what. And for me, I was like, I can't do that. I need to watch and listen to the body. And when the body is saying, hey, I'm holding together, and the nervous system's in fight, flight, and everything's contracted, the nerves are telling the muscles to hold together and the body's compensating, for me, it's not the time to get out on the field. So, for me, I really learnt to follow the 7 gateways of the spine, but to watch and read the body, because the body's got the answers, and it's not about the signal. We have to remember that a pain signal can come on and off, and everybody's got different pain signals as well. So for me, it's not about the signal, it's about creating a healthy spine and nervous system so the body doesn't need to scream out, and the nerves that come out from the brain all the way through the spinal column to every nerve cell, tissue, muscle of the body are coming out with blockages. It's super important for health, for healing, for less pain, less stress, and for more energy. And so with the spinal flow technique, I've trained over 2,000 practitioners, and it's not that I have a better technique. There's so many incredible modalities, but I think what I have is a really clever map. So you can understand what's happening in the body. You can understand what's happening in your own body. As a practitioner, in the clients that you work with, you can really understand where their pain, their symptom, their disease or their illness is coming from. And when you can trace that back to the absolute cause, we can help the clients not just with a little bit of pain, we can help with changing their life, which is really what I'm about. My thing is not about saying, hey, we'll have a little bit less pain through sessions. I want to help change people's lives. Right now, people are stuck in bodies that don't feel good. They're stuck in minds that are busy. They're stuck in hearts that are starting to feel alone. And for me, there's another answer. And the answer is really helping people release and let go of, anything that's causing their pain, their disease, and their illness in the body. And to do that, we need a map. We need to understand how the body works. We need to understand where stress stores in the spine, because right now there are so many people that are not feeling good in their body, in their mind, in their heart, and it's time that we make a change so people start to feel great again.